Right, hi, good afternoon. It's now about 4:15, and it's the day after Bolton finishes run at Wolverhampton last night. Those of you who are on WhatsApp will have heard the immediate after race feedback, and we can now build on that a little bit. Bolton finish broke badly, as we all now know. Harry tried to rush him up to get him back in touch. They went exceptionally quick for the first two furlongs, but then they slowed the race right the way down, which left Harry running into the back of a pack of horses. Bolton finished facing an awful lot of bad kickback, neither of which were ideal. Just as Harry was trying to get him settled and get him back on the bridle with a view of then bringing him off the bend and come with a run, they've kicked again from the front, and in effect the race was gone. He's run right through the line. He looked magnificent before the race, and he's hit the line strong. Which does play into the whole theory of does he need further now, which we'll talk about in a moment. But the reality is that as I suspected before the race yesterday, and I'm never one for tipping horses against one of ours. I'm not one for tipping horses, but there was a very strong word for the Dascombe horse. It was backed heavily the night before, was backed heavily on the morning, even before I did the video. That continued last night. And it's won very, very well. It's obviously a horse that needs all weather. They've tried to run on turf, and it'll be out again on Thursday, I believe, at Ripon. And it's probably worth a second look for those of you who like to watch horses in form. However, more relevant and importantly to us, Born to Finish came out the race last night as if he hadn't really had a race. He wasn't even blown for 10 minutes, more or less 10 minutes, which is... I'm no expert, but Ed was really showing that the race didn't take an awful lot out of him. He's gone home, he's eaten up overnight. He's been out in the paddock this morning. He's kicking about. He's bright. He's alert. He's lively. The race hasn't took anything out of him whatsoever. So as things stand, he will go to Hamilton on Thursday night. We are currently believe that he'd be ridden by David Egan, although that is yet to be confirmed. But David's supposed to be up there to ride 4 for Roger Varian, but from what we gather, a couple of them are ground dependent, and they therefore might not run any of them. And if they don't run any of them, the chance of David would go elsewhere, and we'd be looking for a northern-based jockey. Joe Fanning being the obvious one if we were able to secure him, with the fact that Joe's ridden the horse before. But again, Joe as yet doesn't know where he's going. There's a couple of big meetings on Friday night. There's also, obviously, there's the usual Friday and Saturday meetings, so jockeys on a Friday night can be a little bit tricky, unless you're at one of the main meetings, or unless you have a retained jockey, which we don't have. The other factor that's come to light about the race yesterday is that the times and the discussion that was on the racing channel, or Sky Racing, whatever it's called these days, was very much that... the ground in Wolverhampton's riding good to soft. Now, we know that on turf, Born Finish doesn't handle good to soft. So if that had been clear before we went, then he wouldn't have ran. And this is the second time this has happened with us with all other tracks. When he ran at Kempton, the time before, the time when he did his injury, Kempton had been out with a tractor and they'd rutted up, and that ground was riding slow. The course was riding very slow last night, and that does, on a track like Wolverhampton, when it's riding like that, it really does favour front runners, and that's been borne out in the last 2 to 3 weeks. The meetings at Wolverhampton have been getting won by horses running first or second all the way around. Nothing is coming from behind. So last night really didn't go to plan at all. The whole idea of going to Wolverhampton was so that we had no excuses for him, but he misses the break. The ground is not what it should be at Wolverhampton, which, if you cannot predict the going on an all-weather track, then you do have a challenge. And you're bumping into one. So it's, again, massively frustrating. The positives, as I always try to find, the positives are the handicapper may drop him down a bit. We know he's fitting well. He looked great, and he's hit the line well. And Harry's jumped off and said, look, nothing to do with his breathing. So that issue is no longer in the equation. Now, the discussion about whether or not we run at Hamilton, and I've had numerous emails, and As always, I fully respect everybody's right to have an opinion when they are involved in a racehorse, whether that is born to finish or whether that's a horse with another syndicate or whatever. You know, it's we always invite feedback and input. But what I do find very difficult is I suppose there's no other way of putting it, but the implication that Born to Finish is running at Hamilton on Friday night purely because it suits me. You know, comments that it's a wrong course, it's a wrong going, he should be on the all weather, he should be running down south because all the owners are down south. That isn't the case. The only way we can run a syndicate like we do with crowd racing is that we are never going to be able to suit all the owners. I understand there's a lot of owners who don't like to travel north. I understand that there's a lot of owners who like them to run at their local tracks. And, you know, we regularly get emails of, I'm going to Salisbury on the 12th of July and there's a mile race and I know Born to Finish is a sprinter, but could he run over a mile because it'd be lovely to see him run? It ain't never going to happen. It's never going to happen. We will always run the horse in the best possible race for the horse, based on forecast going, the style of the course, the nature of the race, the fitness of the horse. We do factor in the cost of travel or the time of travel. And the emails I've had this morning are saying it is madness sending them all the way up to Hamilton, or from people who were only too happy to go to Goodwood or to go to Brighton because they're their local tracks. Hamilton from Heads is actually closer than Goodwood. So I understand, and I don't want to sound as though I'm trying to discourage people from having some sort of input. You're all more than welcome to do so. And there's been some good suggestions come from the owner base. But all I would say is do trust that myself and Ed, same as Neil with Ditini, we are absolutely doing what's right for the horse. And if that does mean that some of the owners can't go to see the race, then unfortunately we're going to have to find a way to deal with that. We had 24 owners at Wolverhampton last night. Of those 24, only 6 were guaranteed badges by the nature of their shareholding in the horse. So we have managed to secure 18 people who aren't entitled to a badge by right. I mean, they're fully entitled as owners, but we have got over and above to get 18 people along racing last night who normally wouldn't have got to go racing. And we will continue to do that because that's what we want to do. We want people involved. We want people engaged in the horses. We want people to enjoy this process. But we are not going to not run a horse at Hamilton purely because some of the owners can't get there. It just isn't going to happen. It is the right race for him. If the ground goes, he won't run. If we declare him on Wednesday or tomorrow as planned, and it turns out that there's a couple of horses run who we think aren't going to run, and it suddenly looks as though he is racing for 4th or 5th place, he won't go. We will pull him out as a non-runner. But what we do need to do is balance up the request from a lot of owners saying, let's stop trying to overthink things at Born to Finish. Let's just get them running. Mark Johnson runs his every week. Richard Fahey runs his every week. Archie Watson runs his every week. And they run and they go out. They have the days out. And they win, they lose, they win, they lose. Born to Finish will take his racing. And we could do that with Born to Finish. But what we're trying to do at the moment is get definitive angle on whether or not he is still a 6 furlong sprinter or whether now he needs further. So this quite nicely brings me, you'd think I'd planned this, wouldn't you? But quite nicely brings me to the whole point about the distance of Born to Finish. Friday's race is 6 furlongs and it's at Hamilton. Part of Hamilton's downhill, so they'll go quick, which will suit him as long as he doesn't miss the break by 4 lengths. The finish at Hamilton's uphill, but it's only a little bit uphill. It's not a little bit, it's quite a steep hill, but it's not a long hill. So if he's too far out his ground, his uphill finish is not going to prove of any benefit. So we know he needs to get out and we know he needs to get into a good position. In the race of that calibre, with a horse we know Born to Finish can be, He should be able to do both of those things relatively easily. If he doesn't, there's questions need answered, and then we'll answer them afterwards. But over and beyond Hamilton, Ed is now adamant that he is seeing enough from Born to Finish to show that he is struggling to lay up in the first couple of furlongs. I mean, obviously the bad break doesn't help, but irrespective of the break, even when he's breaking, he is struggling to get early race position over 6 furlongs. He's a little bit older now. He's always been bred to be better over a mile, possibly even a mile 1, stretching it, maybe even a mile 2. And I personally always thought everything he does at 6 furlongs was a bonus. However, that bonus has now gone on for his 3-year-old, his 4-year-old, his 5-year-old, and into his 6-year-old here. So I think ultimately he will be a better horse over further. I didn't want to put him over further until we knew exactly where we were with the horse. I still don't think we do know where we are with the horse. He had a good run at Windsor. Goodwood's very difficult to assess. Brighton obviously had the breathing issue. And then last night, there's still questions to be answered. Although it looks a decent enough run, it still wasn't what we'd expect. So, if we go racing over 7 off the back of another bad run, so say on Friday night, Hamilton doesn't go to plan, and then we go over 7, there is always going to be a large amount of owners that are going to say he should never have gone over 7. And as soon as he goes over 7, they're going to expect him to win, or it's going to be deemed as a bad idea, as a failure. What I've said to Ed is, if he wins on Friday night at Hamilton, we will look for a penalty option, but there doesn't appear to be one. So we will double check and we'll have another look, but we'll have a look to see if there's another race next week. Whether that is turf, all weather, whatever. I haven't spent a lot of time looking because I do not want to be tempted to run him if he doesn't win on Friday night. Should he win on Friday night, as long as we enter him for a race before Tuesday, he will run with a penalty, not with a newly assessed mark. So we will look at that on Friday night. That said, it is highly unlikely, after a break, then 2 quick runs, that we would run him again. So, Hamilton, Friday night. Win, lose, or draw, I believe he will be stepping up to 7. Ed will plan him 3, 4, 5 races over the rest of the remainder of the flat season this year, where we will give him a proper opportunity to show us whether or not he's a 7 furlong horse. They will take us up to the end of the flat season this year, at which stage he will have a short break and he will be brought back, as he has done successfully in the past, be brought back to run early in the new year. So he'd run to September, October, he'll take November, December off, probably the second half of October, bit of November and then December, coming back for the start of the new year, and either be running 6 furlongs on the all-weather if the 7 furlong is proven not to be successful, or 7 furlongs on the all-weather if it has. There are a lot more opportunities over 7 furlongs in a mile for a horse of Born to Finish's nature. So there's a lot of sense in going down that route. The sprint division is always clouded by 3-year-olds right the way up to 0 to 65, 0 to 70, 0 to 80. Always. Because just through the pure nature of what these horses are, the late developers tend to be lowly rated, and then they get the weight allowance, and then they improve as a 3-year-old and they go on. Over the longer distance, the better horses typically are already higher rated, and the ones who are running, the 3-year-olds who are running over the longer distances, tend to just be slow horses that they're trying to find a win for. So, quick summary. Born to Finish is fine after last night. Not the result we're looking for. So a little bit like a broken record, but not all negative, not by any stretch. Hamilton is happening unless the ground dramatically changes. It's currently good to firm. We would run on good to firm, we'd run on firm, we'd run on good. We're not going to run on good to soft. David Egan is likely to be booked. Potentially Joe Fanning as a backup. There's 4 or 5 names in the frame if those 2 jockeys don't work out, so there's no point throwing everybody in the equation as such. There has been a conversation had with Dougie Costello to see if he's available. Dougie isn't going to change plans to go to Hamilton just to ride Born to Finish, and we haven't asked him to do so. But if he does happen to be there and one of our first two couple of choices of jockey are not available, then it could well be that we turn to Dougie and use his experience with the horse. After Hamilton, very brief break, and by a brief break I mean 10 days or so, a fortnight tops, and not a break as in a paddock, but just a gentle week, and then bring him back ready to run again. And that will be then looking at 7 furlong races. Now, one thing that is worth going into and just giving some clarity on, just so that people know that we're not trying to make things harder than they need to be. I am now just going to go on to the BHA website. Let's see how this works. And hopefully we'll be able to show you some of the degree of challenge that we have. Now, Born to Finish, his rating, unless his rating was to drop at on Tuesday, currently would be looking to run either in a 0 to 65, possibly a 0 to 70. He's not going to get into a 0 to 60. 7 furlong races for him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's only 6 options between now and the end of August. For a horse of his grade, gelding, 6-year-old gelding, that is all there is. 3 of them are in Scotland. 1 of them is in North Yorkshire. 1 of them is at Lingfield on the turf. 1 of them is at Bath. It'll find opportunities for him, but it's not going to be as easy as just deciding we want to run them on Friday and there being a race there. If anybody's got any questions at all about race planning, or any questions at all about how we decide what race a horse is going to go to, or how the whole, the races work and what the options are, absolutely more than happy to have that conversation. If anybody has any races, if they've looked at a card and they think that there is a race that would suit Born to Finish, and any other horses come to that, then feel free to drop me an email. It's difficult. It really is. There is just not a race every week that will suit. But we know where we're going. Hopefully Hamilton. Hopefully see a few of you there, because the chances are if he does run, I will be there. So we'll get some nice photographs on track and get some nice videos done, etc. But again, plan on making a 6 or 7 minute video. This is now currently running to 18. Assume a few of you have already checked out. But let me know if you've got any questions, and I'll speak to you very soon.